Another theme I kept encountering over and over with David Lynch specifically is the idea of world building, which I hinted to a little earlier. Lynch talks about this immersion into his projects, spending extended periods of time on movie sets where he can be insulated from the outside world. He mentions that this was especially true for him on the set of Eraserhead, which, by the way, he mentions that Eraserhead is his most spiritual film. This notion of the creative soul to build a world of their very own, free from the limits of the outside world, is quite a common sentiment among artists and those who are highly tuned into channels of creativity. Very few directors fail to achieve world-building status to the degree that Lynch accomplished with Twin Peaks. However, just about every artist of relevance I can think of has indeed accomplished this, whether conscious or not. Twin Peaks leaves me with a sense that in some strange way, it continues to take on a life of its own. And I know that isn't just me. And so is it really all in my head, or is there something more happening here? The unconscious and incomprehensible sense of reality generated from pure awareness is often overlooked, but seems a very real thing, hinting at levels of human awareness yet to be realized. Whether consciously or not, Twin Peaks delivered to many an important pathway into the esoteric and pure conscious nature of reality. It introduced many to the occult teachings of Alice Bailey and others. It unveiled a new level of reality for those paying close attention, providing a readily accessible starting point for those seeking answers to life's greatest mysteries. Now, I have a spoiler alert for those who are uninitiated into the mysteries. And the greatest secrets of life, I'll tell you now, will remain as such. Even the greatest secrets that Twin Peaks points the audience to merely represents a door which behind it reveals yet another starting point. Neither myself nor anyone else may reveal any certain occult secrets of meaningful import without the receiver doing the great work for themselves. In other words, if you are just a fan of Twin Peaks, this video may be amusing or mildly entertaining or nonsensical, but nothing more will come of it for you. However, if you're willing to do some shadow work, and if you've done some shadow work yourself, then it is my hope that you will truly find some of these secrets or starting points that we'll discuss in this series beneficial in your own life. Another important point I need to make at the beginning is that Twin Peaks would not be what it is were it not for Mark Frost, the co-creator of the show. Many would contend that Season 2 would have been much better had Frost not caved to tremendous pressure to spoon-feed the casuals and appease the execs at ABC by answering the question, who killed Laura Palmer? It's no secret that Lynch hated this idea, and many fans of the show would probably agree now in retrospect. Being aware of the sensibilities of the audience is one thing, but completely abandoning a foundational idea of the show just to satisfy the uninitiated when the appeal of the show was due to its strangeness and mystery in the first place seemed completely out of kilter in the Twin Peaks universe. Season 1 treated the audience like adults, while a significant portion of the second season treated the audience like children. children eagerly awaiting answers to the questions being raised by the show. Well, up until the very last episode, at least, then things got a little more nebulous and uncomfortable and strange and beautiful again with Laura's Red Room scene and Dale's possession, all thanks, of course, to David Lynch. Which is why the primary focus of this video series will mainly be on Season 1, the prequel film, Fire Walk with Me, and also some episodes from Season 2. But Season 3 is wildly different in many ways on many levels, and so it won't be part of this video analysis. I'll save that for another time. Now, regardless of this division, Twin Peaks relentlessly pursues the occulted dimensions of reality right under everyone's noses over and over again. So, as you will see many times in this series, the secret sauce of Twin Peaks lies somewhere in the uncanny valley between the interaction of the two seemingly opposing forces of knowing and unknowing, or of meaning and meaninglessness, and we'll get more into that. We also have this classic theme of light and dark, good and evil, order from chaos as well. Although, as many of you already know, we are really just talking about a polarity of degree within the same field, but nothing as distinctly separate per se. Now, an energy which is strangely familiar, yet eternally ephemeral and slippery at the same time. There's something happening in Twin Peaks that is pointing us in a very specific direction, but we can't quite put our finger on it. Lynch hints at this quite a lot. Now, in truth, compelling stories accomplish this to some degree, but so few actually explore this dynamic as tirelessly as Frost and Lynch seem to do. We will see this dynamic come up again and again throughout this series, and I'm really interested to hear about some of your own interpretations and some of the things that I've missed along the way. While David Lynch himself has tapped into this force in many of his own previous works, Twin Peaks would not have taken quite the form that it did without Mark Frost and his creative influences. Oftentimes, we may find that occult and esoteric materials are a sort of free and ready-made source of inspiration for writers. And just as often, this material can be defiled and abused in the name of cheap entertainment for the masses. The horror genre being one of the most blatant repeat offenders. Now, on one hand, Lynch's understanding seems to come from his intuition in all of its raw and informal genius. As composer for Twin Peaks, Angelo Badalamenti puts it, quote, "David really knows what he wants," end quote. While Frost's approach, on the other hand, seems more formal, more intellectual, and almost, I would say, perhaps academic. Now, despite this glaring difference, I have to credit Frost because the first season of the show is truly something special. And I really do think that Mark Frost brought a certain analytical aspect and organization to the show that may have been a little lacking otherwise. Now, to many, Twin Peaks is much more than just a murder mystery, as it remains a deep and enduring inquiry into the nature of good and evil, as well as a probing of the nebulous and mysterious nature of reality itself. If you can approach Twin Peaks in this way, then definitive answers to the questions raised in a very real sense, do indeed seem to spoil the magic.